Ever catch yourself in a bustling crowd, yet feeling completely overlooked? It's as if the world keeps spinning with chatter and motion all around, while you're caught in this imaginary hush that doesn't truly exist. That's the sneaky, rarely voiced hint of dreading solitude, buddy. It doesn't burst in with fanfare or sirens. Instead, it slips through those still instants. The lull in dialogue, the dying echoes of chuckles as night falls, the dim screen light when messages stay silent. Still, it's one of those shared threads in the human psyche, brushing nearly every soul at one time or another. This dread of isolation goes beyond mere physical aloneness. It's an undercurrent in our subconscious, what experts term isolophobia or monophobia. The anxiety of detachment, severance, or even just individual existence. Yet it's far more than a term. It mirrors how our minds are built for bonds. We're wired as communal beings by nature. Our evolution shaped us to flourish in packs, drawing security, purpose, and self from ties. Solitude, then, sets off in primal warning in our systems, a genetic echo that isolation spelled peril long ago. Sure, society has evolved, but that primal brain circuit lingers. It murmurs steadily, if gently, "You're at risk. You're out in the open. You're insufficient on your own." But here's the twist. Countless breakthroughs in creativity, wisdom, and personal evolution throughout history sprang from being solo. Picture the painters, philosophers, adventurers, versifiers. They all faced themselves in those hushed spells. Albert Einstein once noted, quote, "It's a fine balance. What we shy from, the stillness, the void, the lack of interruptions, might just open the door to our truest self-awareness. So why can it hit so hard sometimes? Why does solitude spark restlessness, endless social media swipes, or a rush to fill quiet with pointless sounds? It's not merely isolation or crowd fright. Findings from the University of Chicago and UCLA indicate that solo time with one's mind brings a rawer self-confrontation than any group scenario. Our thoughts probe the queries we dodge daily. Who am I at core? What do I truly desire? Am I content for real? For plenty, those responses sting. Solitude uncovers not just gaps, it spotlights reality. And reality can scare deeply. Picture someone by themselves in a silent space. No tunes, no device, no companions, just inner musings. Research reveals that in moments folks seek diversions, even through slight discomforts. A few grab their gadgets, others bolt from the spot. The reason? Staring down the unfiltered self, the buried ideas, concealed terrors, delayed sorrows, proves tougher than tackling the outside world. At heart, fearing aloneness means fearing an unfiltered encounter with our psyche, no bailout. Yet intriguingly, while we dodge isolation, our brains yearn for it too. Reflection yields a natural payoff, a quiet hit of dopamine from unraveling a puzzle within, gaining focus, or grasping a feeling. Authors, sages, and mindfulness practitioners have unearthed this truth. Solitude isn't painful by design. It turns painful when we push back, when we meet it with dread, when we confuse quiet for barrenness rather than possibility. Think of kids at solo play. As a youngster molds a fortress from beach grains or sketches on paper, they're mastering self-companionship. Their thoughts roam, probe, invent free of critique. But with age, culture drills in that aloneness signals defeat, frailty, or isolation. We link seclusion to relational shortcomings, overlooking how game-changing concepts arose exactly in those withdrawn phases. Leonardo da Vinci, Virginia Woolf, Nikola Tesla, they all tapped into vision, spark, and drive apart from the endless buzz of company. This dread carries a raw emotional layer that's purely ours. We worry over desertion, over dismissal, over our value hinging on others' nearness. It molds bonds, habits, even vocations. Folks cling to hated roles, exhausting ties, confining partnerships, just to sidestep that uneasy self-reckoning. But in a hushed chamber solo with reflections, there's a gentle call to embrace your essence purely. No facades, no sidetracks. And that's where the mind science gets riveting. Brain experts have found that in solitude, the default mode network, a cluster of inner. When we're by ourselves, a specific set of interconnected brain areas lights up. This system handles introspection, mind-wandering, visualization, and even future-oriented thinking. It's during these times that we examine habits, assess decisions, and spark fresh perspectives. Put simply, solitude serves as the brain's workshop for self-development. Those very instances that unsettle us hold the greatest lessons about our identity and core priorities. Now, consider an intriguing aspect of human experience. Plenty of folks blur the line between isolation and solitude. Isolation feels like an emotional gap from those around us. Solitude, by contrast, is simply a physical condition of lacking companionship. You might be solitary and utterly content, or amid a crowd and intensely isolated. The dread of solitude frequently muddles these distinctions. We assume that going solo means lacking something vital. Yet, what we're often really craving is a deeper link to our own inner world. So how do we handle this apprehension? One approach involves purposeful aloneness. This isn't about evasion or self-denial. Purposeful aloneness means intentionally carving out time to engage with your own mind, feelings, and concepts free from interruptions. Begin modestly. Try a few minutes of silent contemplation, a nighttime stroll sans device, or jot down your reflections without any pressure. Gradually, your psyche starts viewing solitude as an asset rather than a risk. Intrigue takes over from dread. Contemplation eases worry. Another method is present moment awareness. This practice entails noticing the here and now without critique. It shows the brain that solitude poses no peril. Even challenging thoughts can be noted without alarm. By shifting from knee-jerk responses to neutral observation, the very tension driving solitude's fear starts to fade. And consider this irony that escapes most. The terror of aloneness often mirrors a fear of mortality. We shy away from our internal landscape because it's expansive, erratic, and unflinchingly truthful. It lays bare vulnerabilities, challenges neglected aspirations, and poses tough inquiries. Yet, true genuineness thrives in those depths. Boldly remaining present with yourself, delving in without evasion, opens doors to innovation, insight, and fortitude. This dread also influences our bonds. Countless individuals form ties not from authentic longing, but to dodge solitude. We cram our days with company, diversions, clamor, anything to sidestep the hush. Nevertheless, the richest connections usually stem from self-understanding. Someone who's confronted their own depths, lingered in quiet amid unease without bolting, brings a richness that draws real rapport. Picture it like this. Envision a pond. At the top, the surface might churn, mirroring every external stir and wave. But only plunging into the calm, serene underlayers reveals the sharpness, hidden gems, and underlying designs. Solitude equates to that plunge. Dread mirrors the surface, unrest. Descent alone uncovers the concealed, the pristine, the genuine. This leads to a deep-seated reality. Solitude isn't something to dread. It's a capacity to nurture. A mind unable to endure its own presence resembles a form unable to draw breath. The unease of aloneness is instinctive yet transient. It arises from evasion's shade. Direct the beam of focus, interest, and inner kindness, and the shade withdraws. Indeed, research into emotional strength indicates that those comfortable with solitude tend to possess greater self-insight, inventiveness, and steadiness in feelings. They excel at tackling issues, expressing themselves, and, curiously, forming stronger ties with others. For in mastering solitude, we master true engagement, vitality, and selfhood. So, the next time that nagging discomfort arises in your solitude, reflect on this. The unease is valid, absolutely, but it's also an instructor. It urges you to pause, inhale, and encounter yourself unmasked. It invites you to heed the stillness, watch the thoughts, and face your realities. And in doing so, in dwelling with the unease without escape, you enter a domain of sharpness, ingenuity, and deep self-reliance that worldly clamor can't provide. The dread of aloneness isn't a foe. It's a guide toward genuineness. It's the entry to an existence shaped by substance, not evasion. And right here, in this subtle human interplay of apprehension and awareness, we uncover not merely the self, but the potential for insight, endurance, and perhaps delight. Because ultimately, embracing solitude means embracing our most essential humanity and realizing, often in awe, that we're not just equipped to stand solo, but to stand vibrantly whole. And there's an even deeper layer to the dread of aloneness. It compels us to grapple with transience. Time flows uniquely in solitude. Instances elongate and broaden, unveiling the subtle rhythms of the hidden truths of our existence that social distractions so frequently obscure come into focus during moments of solitude. Alone, we grasp the temporary essence of our encounters, bonds and feelings alike. We come to see that each interaction, dialogue, or burst of joy must one day conclude. Strangely, this insight can evoke both dread and freedom simultaneously. It drives home the point that nothing and no one else can truly steady us but our own selves. Consider this. The dread of solitude usually stems from worries about forfeiting backing, affirmation, or affection. Yet, by embracing aloneness, we uncover a quiet, profound reality. The soul-enduring foundation is the one we nurture inside ourselves. Being self-sufficient isn't about withdrawing from the world. It's about recognizing that your worth, security, and happiness don't need to be drawn from those around you. Instead, they can flourish from within, steadily and without fanfare, much like a garden enduring the cold season. Within that inner space, resilience, innovation, and a steady awareness emerge, qualities no outside influence can strip away. Curiously, findings from positive psychology indicate that deliberate time alone can enhance our ability to empathize. By reflecting on our personal ideas, sentiments, and habits in isolation, we gain deeper insight into how others think. Mastering the art of enduring our own unease builds greater forbearance, acceptance, and emotional acuity. Once the apprehension of isolation shifts into mindful seclusion, it turns into a pathway, not toward withdrawal, but toward richer ties with fellow humans. Still, moving from terror to comprehension seldom follows a straight path. Many of us face surges of unease in our lonesome hours. We might occupy ourselves with non-stop browsing, marathon viewing sessions, or frantic tasks. We convince ourselves that solitude equals loneliness, risk, or pointlessness. In reality, though, dread isn't an unchangeable condition. It's a cue, a marker guiding us toward personal development. The more we commit to staying fully engaged with our inner world, eschewing distractions and denials, the weaker that dread grows. It evolves into a mentor, a compass, and finally, an entrance to true self-command. For ages, thinkers have delved into this clash between apprehension and seclusion. Seneca, the Roman Stoic, penned much on the value of finding ease in one's own company. He noted how folks squander their days fleeing from solitude, crowding their hours with clamor, diversions, and shallow interactions. But once we welcome silence and find harmony in our thoughts, we achieve liberation. Liberation from reliance on others, from the endless pursuit of outside praise, and the liberty to probe our internal realms with candor and wonder. Modern brain science backs this up too. Experiments demonstrate that extended periods alone stimulate brain regions linked to introspection, issue resolution, and imaginative thinking. Individuals who grow at ease with their solitude frequently describe elevated contentment in life, sharper choices, and stronger endurance amid hardships. It appears the mind favors those who confront their essence boldly, those who plunge into the still depths of their awareness and navigate them mindfully rather than fleeing. That said, welcoming seclusion demands bravery, for dread flourishes in the hush. It murmurs doubts we'd prefer to sidestep. Do I measure up? Will I ever count? Suppose I stumble? Even so, by addressing these queries deliberately and with care, we learn that the strength to sustain, soothe, and forge purpose lies not externally, but deep inside. This epiphany proves life-altering. It alters our dealings with the world, our handling of bonds, and our tackling of obstacles. All at once, solitude ceases to be a thing to escape. It transforms into a refuge. There's a subtle emotional layer to this as well. The dread of aloneness frequently veils a deeper anxiety about mortality. not literally, but in terms of transience, conclusion, and severance. In quiet reflection, we're confronted with life's limited span. Such awareness might stir worry, yet it also beckons us to fully inhabit the now. We start to cherish instances that could slip by unseen. We foster appreciation for the everyday occurrences that genuinely define existence. Through seclusion, the psyche acts as a lens, exposing the subtle fabrics of reality, the subtleties of cognition, and the rhythms of feeling that typically escape notice, and reflect on how seclusion fuels invention. Countless masterpieces, books, artworks, groundbreaking ideas sprang from secluded spaces where visionaries wrestled solely with their musings. The aversion to solitude often hints that we haven't yet unlocked this latent spark. It suggests our internal realm awaits discovery. That inspiration is rapping softly at the threshold, and we need to respond unafraid. In essence, seclusion provides the blank slate where the mind crafts its truest expressions. It's vital to recognize, too, that the dread of being alone often intertwines. Modern life intertwines us profoundly with cutting-edge tech. Platforms like social media, relentless alerts, and perpetual online access provide an alluring diversion from our inner selves. We browse, tap, and flick through feeds, usually mindlessly. This stems from our unease with quiet moments. Yet, this feels like bonding, but it's merely superficial. True empathy, profound feelings, and authentic wisdom arise solely when we confront isolation free from interruptions. The real test lies in cultivating presence amid ourselves, even as countless gadgets beckon us away. This demands self-control, awareness, and bravery. At its core, a fundamental truth about humanity shines through. The dread of solitude acts as a reflector. It reveals all we've avoided confronting, deferred, or neglected to probe. By directly addressing this apprehension instead of running from it, we gain richer insight into our identity, priorities, and essentials. Isolation transforms from emptiness into a guide. It evolves into an ally. It sharpens our view of existence with greater truth, sincerity, and intensity. So, how might we apply this in everyday routines to turn dread into a catalyst for development? Begin modestly. Set aside just 5 or 10 minutes daily for undisturbed aloneness. Rest in stillness, inhale deeply, and notice your mind's wanderings. Next, keep a diary. Putting ideas on paper detaches them, enabling emotional handling without overload. Then, engage in mindful breathing or structured contemplation. Train yourself to observe mental streams neutrally, patiently, fearlessly. Additionally, pursue artistic outlets, sketch, pen stories, color canvases, or craft tunes in seclusion. Such pursuits redirect anxious energy toward innovation. Lastly, affirm that aloneness isn't void. It's attentiveness to your core, to consciousness, to existence in its raw form. Ultimately, the anxiety of isolation, however stinging, serves as a deep summons. It urges you to pause, examine your being, and delve into your singular inner landscape. It underscores that bonds, successes, and delights all weave tightly with your capacity to endure solitude, embrace hush, and sustain your focus sans evasion. Accepting this call shifts the psyche that once quaked at seclusion toward thriving within it. For ultimately, solitude isn't defeat. It lacks barrenness. It avoids penalty. It forms a route toward lucidity, insight, invention, and sincere ties. It's the realm where your essence emerges wholly, resonates fully, pulses vibrantly. Mastering it sans terror unleashes something vital, the awareness that your existence, musings, aspirations, and spirit suffice entirely, stand whole, and hold intrinsic worth, independent of others' nearness. In this epiphany, we uncover supreme liberation. The boldness to dwell in self-company, the intrigue to plumb personal depths, and the serene delight in realizing we're eternally accompanied. For our foremost partner remains ourselves. This insight births an even grander prospect. The apprehension that once bound us ignites expansion. The hushed intervals that formerly daunted us turn into arenas for ideation, introspection, and formation. By wholly welcoming isolation, not as chastisement but as boon, We enter a existence more abundant, intense, and essentially humane than dreamed. Solitude, in its serene splendor, isn't malediction. It demands no endurance, it warrants reverence. Cherishing it dissolves the dread of aloneness, not utterly, for apprehension defines humanity, but sufficiently to unveil a paradoxically richer, more purposeful, and vivider life than imaginable. Music,